Hi, first grade. So today we're going to start this alternating pattern owl, and it's an oil pastel watercolor relief. And our learning objective today is to identify and use straight, curved, thick, and thin lines. So I want you to use those in your owl today. This owl is not an example of meeting that learning objective. This does not demonstrate the learning objective. So now I'm going to show you how to create an alternating pattern owl similar to this one, but demonstrating that learning objective that we're going to talk about. So you're going to start with a large white piece of paper. I need you to write your name on the paper and the letter of the day that you have art. So if you have art on A day, you're going to write A, B, or C. Flip it over. And you're going to start with the eyes near the top of your paper. I'm going to give you a circle pattern to trace. It's going to be kind of big because owls have nice big eyes. So you kind of want to find the top of your paper, somewhere near the top, and then the middle of your paper. And you want to put one circle on one side of the middle, and then put the circle touching, the second circle touching the first circle. I'm going to trace around that. Draw a straight line going across each of the circles, and then add a little oval that you'll color in later. So you can put them both in the same spot. You can put one up high and one down low to make them look a little kooky or crazy. And then you're going to add a letter V for the beak. And now to draw the body of our owl. You're going to start with a big, shallow, not deep, not tall, but short U, or curved line. So here is one of those learning objectives, one of those lines mentioned in the learning objective, curved line. So we're going to start with a curved line at the top. Then you're going to draw a really large curved line for the body of your owl. So you're going to start at the top edge of that curved line. You're going to come down almost to the bottom of your paper and then curve all the way back up to touch the other side of this top curved line. So you have a shallow or short curved line, and then you have a very deep or tall curved line for the body. You're going to add a curved line on both sides of the body for the wings. And then you need to add some feet. So you're going to start with two short lines coming off one side of the body, and I like to curve them, and then a zigzag line going across to close off the feet. And do the same thing on this side. Okay. And now on the body of your bird, the body of your owl, I want you to alternate thick and thin, curved, and straight lines. So I think I'll do a thin straight line and then a thick curved line. So I'm going to go across, and that's thin, but then I'm going to do another one right close to it, and then I'll color this in later with my oil pastel to make that thick. And then a thin, and then a thick. And an alternating pattern, an A-B pattern to fill in the body. So now you're going to use oil pastel to trace over your pencil lines. And I'm going to give you a scrap manila paper, and this is to clean off any oil pastels that you have that are really dirty. Like this oil pastel here is supposed to be pink, but it might not look pink to you because it has so much dirt on it. So, and that dirt just comes from bumping the other colors of oil pastels in the basket. So I'm just going to scribble some of this mess off the tip. I don't need to get the entire oil pastel clean. That would be a waste of oil pastel and a waste of my time. I just need to get the tip clean, the part that I'm going to color with, so I get a nice pink color. And I want you to pick a color to outline your bird with, so I chose pink. And with oil pastels, they can look like crayon if you don't press hard. So I want you to press hard with the oil pastel so that it looks like nice thick oil pastel and not crayon. When you don't press hard with the oil pastel like this and you just color, it looks like crayon. So I want you to press really hard without breaking the oil pastel so that it looks nice and smooth and velvety. You can get that from an oil pastel if you press hard enough. Alright. Okay, and you can use whatever colors you want when you're outlining. They don't have to be realistic. If you want your beak to be yellow or orange, you don't have to outline it yellow or orange. You can outline it with whatever color you want. You can paint it. We're going to paint it later. And you can choose what color you want to paint your beak in later, but the outline doesn't matter if it's realistic. Alright, so I'm outlining the feet. I did the beak, and pick a different color for the eyes. Don't forget to take the color that you choose for your eyes and color in those ovals all the way. So press hard, get a nice velvety color. An oil pastel does not erase, so you want to go slow and try and stay right on those pencil lines the best you can. If you don't trace over the pencil line, you trace next to it. You can't go back and erase the pencil line like we do when we trace with marker, because you might accidentally smear the oil pastel and actually make it look worse. So if you don't quite cover the pencil line with the oil pastel, just leave it. It's fine. Alright, and then I'm going to pick two colors to do my lines on the body of my owl. I'm going to choose this dark green to do my thin straight lines. And I'm going to use this orange to do my thick. So I'm going to trace the top line, trace the bottom line, and then go back and fill that in between, that space in between them, so I have a nice thick line. Now when you do the pattern of the body of your owl, I want you to make sure you have thick and thin lines. I did straight and curved, thick and thin. Those are the 4 lines I need to see on your bird. But if you think about it, we have curved lines in the body and we have a straight line in the eyes. So that meets 2 of those lines in the learning objective. What's left over is thick and thin. So you don't necessarily have to do straight and curved like me, but you do need to do thick and thin. So maybe you do a wavy line that's thin, and then a thick zigzag, and then a thin wavy line, and then a thick zigzag. An alternating A-B pattern, but thick and thin line of some sort down here on the body. And so after you have it outlined with oil pastel, you're going to paint it in. And the oil pastel acts like a resistant. It holds back the watercolor, so this is called a watercolor resist because the watercolor is held in with the oil pastel. So I like to shake off the little crumblies from the oil pastel before I start painting. Alright, and you're going to paint the wings and the top part of your body and the top eyelids all the same color, whatever color you want to use. And remember, when you're using watercolor, you're going to get a little bit of water on top of the color that you want to use, and then you just gently touch it with the bristles, the hairy part of your paintbrush, not the metal part. And you're going to paint this in. Watercolor should not be dark, thick, and sticky when you paint it. It should be transparent. It should be lots of water and just a little bit of color. If you do paint it on too sticky, then you just take some plain water on your paintbrush, paint over the top of that sticky paint, and you move it up or around your owl a little bit further around your owl to get that stickiness away. If you leave the stickiness on there and you paint it too thick and sticky, your owl is going to stick to whoever's owl sits on top of yours in the stack in the turn-in box, and then you might get little bits of white paper stuck to the front of your owl from the paper that sat on top. And I would like you to try to avoid that. So make sure you use plenty of water when you're painting with watercolor, and you're not trying to get in there and scoop that paint directly out of the oval and paint it on super thick and dark. It should be light. Alright, when you paint, I want nice solid color, so I want you to fill in any little white areas that you've left. So you're going to paint the top head of your owl and then the eyelids, which are from that straight line to the top of the circle, all one color. And you're also going to paint the wings that color. Sometimes people forget to add their wings, so if you start to paint your owl and you've forgotten to add your wings from the day before, grab an oil pastel, ask me to get an oil pastel so you can add some wings on the side. Alright, so now I'm going to paint the beak. And I like to do an orange or yellow beak because it really stands out in the center of the owl and it makes your eye go to the eyes of your owl. And now here on the bottom, I want you to pick 2 colors to alternate. One color, second color, A-B pattern of color. You did an A-B pattern of lines, so now do an A-B pattern of color. You can do whatever colors you want. So I'm going to do this blue, regular blue color. See how light that is? It's a lot of water and just a little bit of paint. And I would rather you paint like this than paint it on way too thick. But as the water sits on top of your paint, it loosens your paint up and you're able to get a slightly darker color. Alright, and then let's see, I'll do this purple color. Oops, see, this is super dark. This is what I don't want to see. So the reason this is super dark is because water has been sitting on the oval for a while and it really loosened up the paint and made it wet. So now I'm just going to get plain water on my paintbrush and just take that plain water and drag that over and lighten up this color with the water so that it doesn't end up being sticky. And I can actually move this around and skip a space and paint the next space with the same paint. I don't need to go get more paint on my paintbrush for this last space because it's so dark. Okay, rinse my paintbrush off. That should dry without being sticky, so I should be okay there. So now I'm going to paint blue in those last 2 spaces so I create an A-B pattern with, or alternating pattern with the colors. And then your feet, you can color whatever color you want, but color them the same color. Alright, so I think I'll do green feet. Alright, and this green is pretty dark too. It's been wet for a while, so I'm going to move that over here and finish painting this here and not get any more paint on my paintbrush. Alright, so once you paint your owl, you're going to put it on the drying rack and let it dry. And on the last day of working on our owls, we're going to cut our owl out very carefully all in one piece. So I have an owl that I painted earlier. And it's still a little wet in areas, but I'm going to go ahead and try to cut it so I can show you how to cut your owl out. Your owl should be dry when you cut, so you shouldn't have any problems. When you cut your owl out, I want you to leave this oil pastel edge, so I don't want you to cut that off. So I'm going to come in from the edge and cut right next to the oil pastel, and I'm going to try to cut most of the white paper off. So I'm going to go around very carefully. Like I said, my owl's still a little wet. I don't want the colors to run, so every time I pick up this paper and move it, the colors kind of want to run. So I need to be real careful. Alright, and since I'm right-handed, I cut on the right side of the line. If you were left-handed, you might turn your paper this way and cut this direction. But I'm right-handed, so it's easier for me to cut here, and I can cut neater this way too. You're also going to use small scissors. You're not going to use these big orange-handled scissors when you cut your owl out. And once you cut them out all in one piece, so you're just cutting off all this white background. Now see how I'm coming in from the edge? Instead of trying to turn my scissors back and forth to cut the zigzag toes out, I'm just coming in from the edge and cutting them out into little pieces. And it doesn't, there's no rule that says the leftover background paper that you cut off has to be all in one piece. If it's easier for you to cut neatly and cut it out the way I'm cutting it out in smaller pieces, that's okay, you can do it that way. Try not to cut your feet off. If you made tiny little feet, which hopefully you didn't, try not to cut them off. I've had a lot of people cut their feet off in previous classes. Alright, and then you're going to recycle your scraps and you'll have your alternating pattern colored resist or oil pastel resist owl showing the learning objective, thick and thin lines, curved and straight lines. So we've got straight, we've got curved, curved here, but we don't have any thick or thin on this owl. So this owl doesn't quite demonstrate the learning objective. The owl that I did just a little bit before does. So good job and good luck, first grade.